The episode opens on a slow zoom through a dark, long hall. A grand room. The bottom of the screen reads 400 years ago. This vast throne room is columned on either side and continues down. It is dark, abandoned. There are no torches lit, but the light that we can see illuminates the room in dark shadows, long shadows. 400 years ago, this throne room looked just like it does today. But something happened 400 years ago. Suddenly there is sound. And a group of orcs, injured, but alive, limping down into these ruined halls of Fornost. We see them, a few injured, walk in and sit down amid the rubble. Others are straining. You can hear their grunts and their heavy breaths and the sounds of struggle as they're moving something. Eventually we see, in this huge room, at the far end, there is a large stone throne that stands among broken stones that have fallen from the ceiling. This marble, deep black with veins of other colors in it. On it is the image of a single many-rayed star. One of the orcs sits there and barks a laugh. "Put it down. Leave it here." A few other orcs come in carrying something circular, wrapped in a bunch of cloth, and they put it down on the ground in a relatively unmarred section of the ground here, and they unfurl the cloths and eventually lay the cloth flat, and sitting in the middle of that cloth is a perfectly smooth stone. One thought lost to the depths during a shipwreck, but really it has been recovered from a campaign of orcs far to the north beyond here. And looking out in all directions, and somehow connected to it, seeing through it, another kind of shadow, a deeper kind of shadow, a malevolent presence exudes from this stone. The Anumanas stone, one of the Palantiri. The image fades away as the orcs disappear from the picture, but the rubble and ruin of this throne room remain. It is still casting long shadows. There is a layer of dust on every surface of this room, except somehow, seemingly undisturbed from the years of having been forgotten and buried down here, neither this Palantir stone nor the marble throne at the end of the hall seem disturbed by the passage of time whatsoever. And then the bottom of our screen reads present, when again a loud sound breaks the silence of the moment where the camera has been lingering, and the floor above the ceiling collapses and down falls Iorlas. Iorlas gets up with a grunt. He is in significant amounts of pain. He is weary. You can see the quick panic of, am I going to need to fight down here, in his eyes as he reaches for Nimloth's tear, but no enemies exist down here, or so he thinks, until those shadows, that malevolence exudes from this stone, and Iorlas's eyes go wide. Hello everyone, and welcome to July. Weird. That's more than halfway through the year, and it does not feel that way. And you know what? Fittingly, I think that we are just turning the corner on maybe this being more than halfway point of the One Ring, but we'll see. Again, I'm loving this series. It's been a while since I've played and uploaded an episode, but we're not doing that. We're going to do announcements really quick, just super quick. July is going to be an exciting month where we're going to be back into the One Ring with a couple of episodes on weeks 1 and 3. Next week, the interview that I did for my perspective checks was a really awesome conversation with Sierra, aka Rage Panda Pajamas, if you've seen that name out there on the internet anywhere. She is a media theory and like actual play critic. She kind of delves into what actual play is doing right now in the media landscape, and we talk a lot about the medium as a storytelling medium and as a entertainment medium and all of the things that AP does and ways that we can be thinking about it a little more critically maybe, or also ways that we can push its boundaries or what's good about what we're doing and what could be better, and etc. So it was a really fun talk. I really want to talk to Sierra more about other things. We ended up talking about like 3 topics where I was like, write that one down. Well, you're going to have to come back to that one. But it was a great talk. I hope you are excited for that. And then the end of the month, I am replacing Design Diaries for the time being until I get Rust and Detectives out, which are 2 finished games at this point, just about. I just need to find time and learn layout a little bit. Until that's done, I'm still working on games in the background, lots of ideas in my brain, but people really like the Ironsworn Legacies playtesting that I'm doing, so I'm going to do Ironsworn Legacies playtesting on the last week of the month, probably for the rest of the year, who knows, for a while anyway. Maybe it might stop in October when I'm doing Spooky Month stuff, but maybe I'll pick right back up after that. We're just going to keep up with Ironsworn Legacies. It's going to be fun. I think that's a great idea to just see playtesting through every iteration, every new version of it that comes out, and get an idea of what we're going to be seeing from Sean Tompkins' evolution of the Ironsworn line. Very cool. All right, and without further ado, we got to figure out how Iorlas is going to get out of Fornost, or what even he's found down here. Oh boy. Okay, so we are back in Middle-earth, everybody. It is very exciting. Now, I did do my usual scene at the beginning there, a little flashback and some context and a little bit of a scene for leading into this episode. I wanted to find out after we fell through the ground last session what's down here, what might be interesting in all of this stuff. Now, obviously, we rolled on the lore check that we got from translating the writing on the wall, out in the plaza of Fornost, but what could be down here? And there is great information in the core rulebook about the throne room of Arvidui. I probably said that wrong, but it's an ancient throne room of Fornost, and I tried my best to include the throne, and I went a little off canon, and you real Tolkien historians and people really into the lore of Middle-earth, please don't be upset with me that I recovered one of the lost Palantiri of Arnor. There were 2 that were lost when the Witch King of Angmar sacked Fornost in the Second Age, and then the king at that point, Arvidui, took the 2 Palantiri north and got them out of there before they were rescued by a boat, and then they were sunk to the bottom of the ocean outside of the Grey Havens. So I think I feel okay about one of these stones having been recovered. Maybe they split them up so that way it wouldn't be a complete loss if they were lost. And I think it makes sense that given what we know happens with Saruman and the influence of the Palantir that he has and Sauron's influence, that one could be here recovered by some of the oldest of the orcs from Mordor, some of the strongest and oldest original, that they went far, far, far to the north, braving these wild lands and taking the fight to the snowmen of the far, far north and recovering this lost Palantir. So I think that's pretty cool. And I just want to explain before I go into the episode, I rolled a few things before I did that little cold open. I'd asked the telling table I asked, are there orcs down here, or are there servants of the shadow of Sauron down here? And I put it at 50-50, and I rolled a Eye of Sauron, which might make you think, oh, Iorlas is about to get ambushed. But the way I phrased the question was, are there agents of the shadow of Sauron down here? And an Eye of Sauron is always no with an extreme result or twist. So then I thought to myself, oh, there are no servants down here anymore, but something worse is down here. And because I rolled a Eye of Sauron, even on a telling table roll, I decided, let's roll on the ill fortune table and just see what happens. And I rolled 2 Eye of Saurons on both of my feat die, which says your actions catch the eye of the enemy, increase eye awareness by 2. Now I'm not going to increase it by 4, I'm going to increase it by 2, and I'm going to roll a shadow test against Dread. And in the Sources of Dread table, in the One Ring 2nd edition core rulebook, Sources of Dread have shadow points that can be gained, and it goes as low as 1 for little things, to 2 to seeing some pretty awful things, all the way up to 4, which says seeing the eye in a Palantir, which feels right. So we are going to roll a shadow test for Iorlas here, and to do that we are going to roll our 2 Valor. So we're going to get 2 skill dice and 1 of our feat dice. I think that, can I leverage? I think we checked this before. Let me see if I can leverage any of my distinctive features and spend hope to hopefully not fall into miserable, because we're already at 6 shadow. Oh, actually, we just raised our shadow by 2 before we made this roll, which brings our shadow up to 8, and our current hope is 8. So when a player hero has a shadow score that is equal to or above their current hope score, they become miserable and see all of their rolls hampered by the fact that rolling an Eye of Sauron icon on the feat die results in a failure regardless of the target number and the actual result obtained with the roll. Okay, now if our shadow reaches our maximum hope, for example, if we fail this shadow test, then we are going to have a bout of madness. And that is going to actually matter because we do have a madness path, or a shadow path, and I will go into what that means in a second. I'm going to roll my d12 versus 2d6, attempting to beat my target number of 12, which is my heart score, which is what you do the shadow tests against for Valor. And because I'm also weary, I want to say that 1s, 2s, and 3s on my skill dice are going to count as 0s. So we are in a rough spot right now. But I also think that narratively, this is perfect. So here goes. We're going to roll. Oh no. Oh no. Even if I counted this 1 on one of my skill dice, this would not matter. That is a 2 on the feat die, a 5 and a 1 on the skill dice for an 8 total, or 7 if I don't count the 1 because of weary. So that is a failure. And I'm going to take 4 points of shadow, which brings me up to 12 shadow, which is my maximum hope score. So now we need to read about madness. Player heroes whose shadow score reaches their maximum hope rating are so overburdened by their fears, they become ill-favored on all rolls. That means I'm rolling 2d12 and taking the worst. There's only one way to recover from such depths of desperation. The character must experience a bout of madness. It is a violent outburst, a dangerous crisis that frees a player hero from the burden of shadow, but has long-term serious consequences. Iorlas stands up, holding Nimloth's tear, but he is hunched over, he is bleeding, he is so hurt from everything that has happened. He's taken a little bit of a rest. He's done his translating, but falling through the ground only reopened all of those fresh wounds. And he's standing up and he's so worried he has to fight somebody when all he sees is this long hall. And I think that we even get that distorted camera kind of thing where the hall just stretches in front of Iorlas as he has just fallen in through the ceiling, down to the ground. The dust is settling, and there is just a perfect marble throne with a sunburst on it that gives him hope for the briefest of seconds before a pulse of something dark. It's intangible. It is evil exuding from this small, perfectly smooth stone. And I don't think it looks quite like when Saruman has his hand over it in the movies where the eye is kind of present, or when Pippin accidentally looks into it and is ensnared by the eye. I think that it is just an incredible wave of dread and the power of Sauron, even at this point, before the Lord of the Rings starts in earnest, these years before, the years, the centuries of plotting. It all hits Iorlas in such a devastating wave of hopelessness. The feeling that resistance is futile against such power. These vast distances that this power can travel and stare right into and through him like he is nothing. If anything, he has just given away something. And because we are not part of a fellowship, I think that the bouts of madness definitely must play so well in a full group game of this, where somebody lashes out at a teammate, somebody alienates someone else, or you know, it's that kind of the tension of the breaking of the fellowship. It's built into this game. It's the mechanics do such a great job of loading up these feelings of we can't win, but we have to fight anyway. In a solo game, I think that this looks like Iorlas is going to immediately go into his bout of madness. That comes with a few things. He is going to flee Fornost. He was supposed to come here at the behest of Gandalf to investigate the potential spreading of shadow in the ancient capital of man, of the Dunedain. And I think that he found it. I think that Iorlas knows that he has found something that he has to tell Gandalf, but I also think that it makes a lot of sense. So let's read up on the bout of madness. One of the options is fear. The hero falls prey to their fears, flees from any source of danger, thinking only about preserving themselves from threats. And that is where Iorlas is going to be for a while right now. I might actually keep the ill-favored for our first event as we travel back down towards Bree, down the Greenway, but I think that we get a scene of Iorlas scrambling, like frantically, this man that we have seen be so capable so far of traveling, and he's a messenger, he's a ranger, he travels these roads, he travels these places, he is confident in his ability to move about the world. But right now, there is a lost look in his eyes, a deep fear, and he is scrambling up every bit of rubble and stone as he flees the city of Fornost. We actually probably even get a very quick scene of him poking up out of the hole in the ground that he created when he fell through, and his wild eyes covered in dust, he just kind of comes up and just starts sprinting through the city, not thinking about if there could be more threats around here. Flight has taken over and he is running, and I think that we see him heavy breathing, cold sweat rush out of the gates of Fornost, this ancient keep, and he runs to roughly where he had left Romilia, and he is spittle flying, yelling for this beast. He is desperate for this steed, and it does come, and he even thinks he grabs the horn on his belt and debates blowing it to just get the horse here faster, but he stays his hand as the horse gallops up and he jumps on. We're going to mark our first shadow path So there are bouts of madness along shadow paths, and each of the callings in the One Ring have different shadow paths associated with them. As a messenger, Iorlas' shadow path is that of wandering madness, right? As a messenger, his way to cope with and deal with all of this, and what is also a weakness if the shadow gets to him, is eventually he will not go anywhere for certain reasons, right? So the first step of that, and we have to mark it, is idle. And this is just a narrative role-playing thing, where basically at certain times, Iorlas might find himself unable to act or afraid to take action. I don't know if we're going to get to that point where I might be able to call on that, but maybe we will. And I think that after the hectic fleeing from Fornost, we then catch back up with Iorlas. The very next scene, there's like a fade to darkness into night as we watch the horse and rider sprint off and shrink into the distance, and then night falls, and when the scene transitions to the next day, we once again see Iorlas still in the saddle, except unlike before, unlike any time before, when he would have been hyper vigilant and looking out and traveling these roads, I think that it's almost like a 1,000-yard stare. It's almost like he probably didn't sleep. He's got bags under his eyes. He's terrified. And you'd think that he'd be hypervigilant because of this fear, but instead what it has done is it has exhausted him to the point where he can't keep an eye on his surroundings. And the horse is traveling south, luckily, but I'm going to go ahead and roll ill-favored on our travel roll to head south down the Greenway. Now, technically, I believe we are always inspired on rolls while journeying. I don't know if that includes travel, but I'm going to roll this one ill-favored because really, Iorlas left himself up to the horse. He just let the horse take him wherever, as far away from Fornost as they could get. So we're going to roll 2d12, so 2 of the feat dice, 2 of the skill dice for travel, and we're trying to beat a TN of 12, but we're taking the lower of the feat dice, which is a 2. And then I got a 5 and a 3. The 3 gets thrown away because I am still weary. So that is a failure. And we are going to have an event on the road. I'm going to roll 2d12, 2 of the feat dice. I might reference the Ruins and Broken Stones table because we are still kind of in these North Downs surrounding Fornost. But I will also reference the solo journey events and see which one seems more interesting. We're taking the worst of these 2. Ooh, I actually like both of these from the Ruins and Broken Stones table, and what I'll do is they both come with rolls that need to be made, and I will combine it with the solo journey events table, so that way if I don't pass this first one, I will accrue 1 point of shadow from dread, which is super appropriate. So I think that we are... I might roll this one ill-favored as well until we rest. I don't think that... We've had our bout of madness, but for the record, I think that it's supposed to be something that lingers more and doesn't happen immediately in the moment. I want to just play this up. This is a real low for Iorlas. He finally saw what he probably was supposed to see there, and he couldn't do what Gandalf needed him to. And he's feeling that. And so I'm going to roll this. So the first one says, we're going to combo these. I'm actually going to roll 2 events in one. But it says a lingering shadow. On a successful awareness roll, the player discovers they're being shadowed by someone. I think word choice intentional there. Iorlas has great awareness. He has 3 in awareness, so we're going to roll 2d12, taking the lower, but then 3d6. Okay, and we are going to succeed even with terrible rolls. So taking the lower of our 2 feat die is an 8, and taking out the 2 ones we rolled, because again, we're still weary, we get a 4 on the other skill die for a total of 12, which is exactly our strength TN to succeed in this. We are not going to take the Shadow Point of Dread. I think that Iorlas feels like he's being tailed. He feels like something saw him there, and something left with him there. There's no way he can outrun what saw him when he saw it. And it's this feeling he cannot shake. And he could succumb to more shadow here. But he notices it. And he thinks, I'm not dead yet. I'm not dead yet. You will not get me. I just must make it back to the Grey Wizard. And it says here, the mysterious spy disappears after a few hours or is called out. Oh, maybe that's what he does. I think maybe Iorlas does call out, "Followed me out, did you? Well, I'm not dead yet. If you can get me, come get me." And it's a show of bravado that maybe comes out, maybe it was supposed to sound strong, but I think he just sounds overtired and maybe like he's losing his mind a little, which he definitely is in the process of doing. And the other event that we got, and I think this makes sense, is as we're going to rest for the night, and this would be a short rest, we're going to find a place to camp, which will allow us to regain endurance equal to our strength rating, which is going to bring us up to 15, which is going to, and I mean, it probably should be lower than that because I didn't take any damage from the fall, but that will break our weary. We are no longer weary. We're going to get a night's rest, which doesn't feel right when I read this next thing. And it says, "Restless soul. Iorlas that night is sleeping. He has started a fire. He has found a small copse of trees near some ruins along the greenway. He could not find the homestead that burned down where he found Romilia, the horse, and he is just camping in the corner of maybe what used to be an old tower or something like that. Stones have been piled. And he has a dream where a warrior of Arthedain walks out, gives him a nod of respect for having traversed these routes and come to these lands. He actually mirrors, he says what Iorlas called out earlier. He said, "You're not dead yet, but some of us have fallen here. I ask you, if you can, I'm stuck here. Give me a proper burial." Iorlas wakes in a start, just deep breath, gasp, kind of, wondering, was that real? Is this a dream? And this roll comes with a scan roll around the camp that Iorlas has set up tonight to see if he can notice something. Now, scan, I only have one die in, and it is in the wits attribute, so it is my highest DC. So I'm going to actually spend a point of hope, because I think that if this dream is real, I mean, it could be Iorlas telling himself what he needs to hear, that he's not dead yet and there is more to do. But I also think that this warrior asked him to do an honorable thing and bring his spirit to rest by giving him a proper burial. And I think that that's a reminder of mortality for Iorlas. We're going to roll, I'm going to spend a hope, and I'm going to invoke my honorable distinctive feature to get 2 more d6. Here it goes. Oh, and I get a Gandalf rune and a Tangwar. Wow, that was an enormous roll. So I got a Gandalf rune and a 6 on one of these, which means that I get a special success on this scan. Maybe something about this is exactly what Iorlas needed to put behind that harrowing experience. It's not going to be gone. It will never leave him, but it's something that needed to, no pun intended, as he digs a grave, ground him again in the moment. Now, it says here, a scan around the camp discovers a collapsed watchtower and a skeleton of a fallen guard. So I think that Iorlas is going to spend some time digging, or at least maybe collecting the bones and making a cairn of stones. And it's this busy work, an honorable action that reminds him why he travels always. It is a reminder of everything that was before this event, this horrible, horrible vision. And I think he finishes right at dawn. Like, there's no going back to sleep, and he definitely did not sleep well enough last night. He is, if anything, more exhausted from moving stones or digging holes, but he's done it, and the sun is rising, and we see him look up as the sunlight, the early morning sunlight, hits Iorlas' face, and he wipes his face with a dirty hand, and he fixes his long hair behind his head. He gets up with another groan, still not fully recovered, not even a little. He whistles over Romelia, who's eating in the morning, and he packs up and he says, "I'll sleep in the saddle." And I'm going to roll a few times. We'll see if I leave it in or if we just return to Bree and figure out the next leg of this journey, as we have completed one of the 2 quests for one of our 2 patrons. Let's go ahead and see. We are still a few hexes away. We are 1, 2, 3 hexes away. So all I have to do is succeed in this travel roll and we will reach Bree. But let's see if I succeed. I'm going to roll d12 and 2d6 for our travel roll against a TN of 12. Oh, and I get a 1 on our feat die, but I get a 6 and a 5 on the 2 skill dice, so I get a Tengwar rune, and that reaches 12 exactly. So we succeed, we will reach Bree, and with the special success, we will make haste and get there faster. After burying this fallen guard, it is instilled a reminder of Iorlas as to why he does this, what he is protecting people for. So we will reach Bree and maybe do a short... Is it too soon to do another fellowship phase? I think it might be. However, it is the only time we can upgrade our character, and I feel like having completed, even if there's an asterisk on that completing the quest for Gandalf, as far as like, we didn't settle any problems, we didn't solve any problems, we just identified said problem, which might be all Gandalf really needs. That is going to get us some experience points in the form of adventure and skill points, and this would be a time for Iorlas to recover again some more and spend some time with like Fitch Talltree and the people of Bree. Find out if they've learned anything else about Drustin the Mercenary and where they went, because it turned out that it's not likely they were the ones who fled north and burned this abandoned homestead and all of that. So yeah, I think, you know what? We're going to do a quick fellowship. Might be a little early to do another one, but we're just going to spend another like week of downtime here. And maybe we can take the meet patron thing again, which I think we can, and meet up with Gandalf, let him know what we found. So let's go ahead and do another fellowship in Bree. All right, so the first thing we do in a fellowship phase is set the duration we are going to be spending time here. I wonder if this could just be another week, right? And let's go ahead and say we left the Shire in spring. We've been traveling. There is ways to go back and like take a look at my journey map and all of the distances that I've traveled as Iorlas and figure out how many days on the road it has been. My guess is it's been about a month, maybe a little more. And with the additional like week that we spent in Archet and Bree before, we're going to say it's been like 2 months. We're probably rapidly approaching full-blown summertime soon. And so we can stretch those days little by little. Obviously time and marching order and marching length and all of this stuff, the time that people spend getting from A to B in a lot of Tolkien's writing is very important. It actually matters when you arrive, what's been happening in the background. But for our purposes right now, we're worried less about that. I'm just going to go ahead and say that by the time we are leaving Bree, we're going to be leaving pretty much at the onset of summer. So next we're going to choose our destination, which is where we're spending our fellowship, which I just said was Bree. And then we're going to perform our updates. I'm going to give myself the 3 adventure and skill points I would get for finishing this session early. And then we're going to go over a few other additional sources of points that we can get from doing certain things in the game and see what our tallies get up to, so we might be able to get some more stuff. We have completed a patron's mission, which earns us 1 adventure point and 1 skill point. I think that we have completed a meaningful journey to Fornost and back, which will get us 2 more skill points. Face a noteworthy encounter during a journey, I think that we definitely did that. It's going to bring us up to 13 skill points. Reveal a significant location or discovery gets us an adventure point. That's going to get us 1 there as well. And do we think we survived a dangerous combat? I think we did, which means that we're going to get an additional adventure point, bringing our totals to 14 adventure points, 13 skill points to spend during this fellowship phase, which I think we're going to be able to get some good stuff with. Let's find out. Well, it's actually a lot easier this time because even though we have 14 and 13 points respectively, we are just going to use those to get 2 things, spending 12 points each. We're going to use 12 skill points to raise our combat proficiency with swords up to 3. So now we're rolling 3d6 whenever we are in combat using Nimloth's tier. It is becoming more comfortable in our hands fighting evil men and undead. Then we are going to raise our wisdom score up to 2 and take on a new cultural virtue. Now, technically, I was supposed to take one of the starting virtues when I started this game, but instead I opted not to choose one of those and take a cultural virtue specifically from the Rangers of the North, which you're not supposed to do until you reach wisdom 2, but I'm a solo player. I think it makes more sense to be a little more flexible with these in a regular game with a group, stick to the core rules. I'm going to take another cultural virtue of the Rangers of the North, and especially after this last session, not this one, the one before, where Iorlas translated that wall of text and lore with the help of the brooch of a long-lost branch of the Dunedain bloodlines. I think that it makes sense. We're going to take the cultural blessing foresight of their kindred. The Rangers of the North still possess a measure of foresight that their ancestors possessed in full. In the twilight of the Third Age, this manifests as a sense of watchfulness and of fear arising to warn a ranger of danger that has not yet come to pass. During an adventuring phase, you may invoke your gift of foresight a number of times equal to your wisdom rating, and bestow it upon yourself or another member of your company, so it's going to be ourselves. This gift can be spent at any moment to reroll all the dice involved in any one roll. It can be a roll that Iorlas makes, or that an enemy makes. We get to do that twice per adventuring phase now, so that is awesome. Alright, next we do heal. We're going to recover a number of hope equal to our heart score, which is going to bring us to full on hope, and we will recover enough endurance to get back to full there as well. And now we're going to do our fellowship undertakings. We get the meet patron one for free because Iorlas is a messenger, and we will decide the other one. But first, we're going to meet our patron. We are once again going to meet Gandalf the Grey as he is in the north, traveling around between the Shire and the lands of Bree and various places. We'll say that this isn't right when Iorlas arrives. I think that after he has been there for a few days, word comes down that the Grey Wizard has once again been sighted nearby, and people are excited or grumbling as appropriate for what they feel about Gandalf and Rangers and all of that. But it will allow Iorlas to meet with Gandalf and share news of what he found in Fornost. As we are in Bree for a little extended period of time here, let's go ahead and roll a d12 on an evening at the Prancing Pony. And this will be something that's either going on the night that Gandalf does arrive, or we can even say that it's pretty much the most interesting night that Iorlas has during this fellowship phase in Bree, beyond his undertakings and meeting with Gandalf yet again. Let's see. That is a 3 on the feat die, which says, Dwarf Travelers. Dwarves, traveling to the land of their kin along the great east-west road, are sampling some of Barnabas's best, and have raised a raucous song this evening. Ooh, for fun. You know, as a messenger, as a ranger, as a messenger, which is our calling for Iorlas, I would love the idea of him. He has folklore as a distinctive feature. It is something that he prides himself on, is learning and knowing how to get along with all of the races, all of the peoples across Middle-earth and the places he may go. It'd be really funny to do a song test just to see if he can jump in and have some fun with it. Now the thing that's funny about this is, we're in a fellowship, I'm gonna just take a hope for free here. Actually, you know what? I'll take it off. I'll spend 1 hope using my folklore distinctive feature to gain 2 additional dice on this roll, because I only have 1 skill die in song. But I love the idea of Iorlas coming back from this harrowing solo trip to Fornost, a place of his ancestors that has fallen so low, and having such a terrifying experience there, coming back to Bree, after burying this fallen guard and remembering what he's doing it for, remembering that the world to everyone else has not changed. It's only to him that he has seen this power, this terrifying presence, and he's trying to remember, and he hears this raucous song. Maybe he's a little in his cups during this fellowship phase as he's taking a few nights to rest here. He's going to join this song with the dwarves. Here we go. We're going to roll a feat die and 3d6, thanks to our folklore, to see if we can do it. I rolled an Eye of Sauron, and then a 4, a 3, and a 1, which is a failure. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Okay, so Iorlas is going to jump in and try to join these dwarves in their song. It's a song he recognizes from his interactions with the dwarves in his own times. But something goes wrong. Now, is it because we would have gotten an 8 total, which is 4 lower than our strength TN of 12. So it wasn't a very good performance. Now, is it offensive because maybe he was flubbing certain things? Maybe he just doesn't have the low baritone bass kind of booming voice that the dwarves use in their chants, their hymns, kind of like this very droning kind of song maybe? Or, well, let's find out. Let's roll on the ill fortune table for rolling this Eye of Sauron. And then also, I think I need to increase my eye awareness because I rolled that, which is putting us incredibly close to setting off after this fellowship phase at the eye awareness level where we're going to be in trouble because we are at 11 right now. And the result of our feat die referencing the ill fortune table was a 9. So that says you learn or realize something, which adds a new complication to your mission. Ooh. I like that. Something in the song. Something in this song of dwarves, of things forgotten, buried under mountains, something along those lines, right? The march of dwarves from mountains to mountains, and the spaces between where it's why the dwarves settle in their mountains, because all these places in between, such evils of men, the temptations of this, the, in their mind, ignorance of elves kind of thing. It's the in-between spaces, it's the songs about things forgotten, it's all this stuff, but there's a line in the song that strikes Iorlas when he sings it, and maybe this is when he kind of stops. Maybe it's not that his performance is bad, it's that he stops and everyone notices that he's having some kind of revelation about the lyrics of these songs for these times. Let's go ahead and roll twice on the lore tables and see what we can get. We're going to roll a d12 and a d6. We get a 3 and a 6, which is going to be some form of evade, faded, or haven. Haven sounds interesting. And then an Eye of Sauron and a 6 would be weaken, treacherous, or war. So combinations of those could be things like weaken haven, which is something that Iorlas probably just literally witnessed in Fornost with the orcs delivering this long-forgotten, thought-lost Palantiri. Or even Treacherous Haven works really well there. I think that's really good. I mean, there could also be Fated War, but I don't think that one makes as much sense. I think Weaken and Treacherous and Haven make all the sense in the world. There is, maybe in this song, it's about these dwarven holds, these mines, these places of power where any of the races of Middle-earth can build up their glory, but it's about delving too deep, you'll always hit the shadow, or, you know, there's coming out into the light is what casts these shadows, and there's these lines, and, you know, there's songs about multiple mountain ranges and the places between them. And there is a line that just hits Iorlas like an anvil to the gut. And he sits down, his tankard hitting the table. And I think that most people see it as like, okay, that guy can't handle his Barnabas's best or something like that, and the dwarves maybe laugh it off. But I think that, you know what, I'm going to actually have Iorlas make a shadow test right now against Dread, just for 1 shadow point. But I think that something is dawning on him that he is terrified of. So we're going to roll feat die in 2d6, and we're going to fail. So we're going to take on 1 more shadow point. I think the idleness is threatening. I don't think that the immediate effect of this is any kind of idle nature, but I think that what happens is Iorlas sits down here, and again, we talked about the distances that this power can travel and observe from and exert its will and hatred through. Iorlas is also realizing that it's not just physical distance, it's time. This has been so long in the making. This hatred has simmered for so long. There are songs about it. He sits down and is having a hard time now, enjoying his fellowship phase, his downtime. And maybe that's when a hand on his shoulder sits down and Gandalf joins him.
Iorlas, son of Baranor. On such a raucous evening, it is strange to see you looking so upset.
And Gandalf says this genially, but I think that his eyes can tell that Iorlas has experienced something else. And they are begging the question.
What happened, young ranger?
Iorlas looks at Gandalf and he snaps out of his momentary dread, and I think he just spills it all. He tells Gandalf everything. At the end of a long night, catching up, pipe smoke, more of this delicious, delicious ale, loosening his tongue and his inhibitions of letting his guard down, being vulnerable in front of Gandalf. Iorlas lets it all out, and Gandalf just nods and says,
That is more than I ever could have hoped to hear from you. I'm glad you made it back in one piece, with scars to show, that will always remind you of what we fight for.
And Iorlas looks at Gandalf and says,
Yes, Grey Wizard, I will continue to fight. And speaking of, I must make my way south. For Círdan, the shipwright, as you know, I make my way toward the Cape of Erin Vorn.
And Gandalf says,
Yes, that area too has rumors of shadow lurking in those woods, so I advise you be careful.
And again, they spend some time together. I think other things that happen during this fellowship phase. Let's see if I'm going to roll on just the telling table. 50-50. Actually, I think it's likely that Iorlas finds the family of the homestead who came here after it burned down, and this is where he found not only the horn, but Romelia, the noble steed, and I think he would offer to return them to this family. So let's go ahead and roll on likely. I just need to roll a 4 or higher on a feat die, and they are still going to be here. And I rolled a 3. They're gone. That is very interesting. That is really, really strange that they are not present. And I think that maybe there is a sneaking suspicion in the back of his mind that there was more to this story. They failed to tell Iorlas or any of the people of Bree that there were orcish arrows. They failed to give a lot of details that seem very relevant. And Iorlas pats Romelia on the neck and says, You're stuck with me for a while yet, but I promise to take care of you, and I will see you to a good home if we can find you one. For you deserve more than that of a pack horse for a lowly messenger like me. And the horse kind of whinny, like, and takes some oats or an apple or something. All right, so that's interesting that didn't happen. And I think the other
action, the other undertaking that we are going to do in this fellowship phase is I'm torn between study magical items and ponder storied figured maps. So we could look at maps in Bree of the south and the capes of Minhirith. But I also think studying magical items, I think that I'm going to go with study magical items. I don't think Bree is going to have the information of the southern capes that would be as valuable as if we got somewhere further to the south, maybe Tharbad and things like that. So studying magical items also makes sense because as a messenger and wielder, inheritor of Nimloth's Tear, I think that there's always been a hesitance to wield it in Iorlas. At least wield it against evil men and undead. There was always the honor and the responsibility and the promise to do so, but never presented like it has in the last few months. I think that having wielded it, having defeated a shade, a wraith, a evil men, it burnishing in his hands against bandits and scavengers and the like, and people with no honor whatsoever, he's become a little more attuned to it. He becomes a little more aware of its history and his place in the story that this sword deserves. And maybe it's Gandalf, actually, like we can extend this throughout the conversation and throughout retelling it. During this, Nimloth's Tear is sheathed in its scabbard and hung from the back of the chair Iorlas is sitting in, and I think that Gandalf at one point probably grabs it and tells him. It says, "Choose this undertaking to learn all there is to be discovered about the qualities of marvelous artifacts and wondrous items in the company's possessions." So, I think what that means is, I don't know if they're unlocked yet. I'll look more into this. We'll talk about it next time. But for a GM'd game of the One Ring 2nd Edition, when you create these wondrous items and weapons and marvelous artifacts and things like that, they're supposed to come with multiple abilities that get unlocked over time. I'm going to go back in between this episode and the next, and I'm going to see if I'm supposed to add any, and then I will tease everybody about what they do, and maybe Iorlas will discover more abilities of the wondrous enchanted items that he carries. And we'll end this episode on Iorlas and Gandalf drinking in the Prancing Pony, planning ahead and planning to go their separate ways soon. Gandalf to investigate what Iorlas has told him about the north and the stronghold of the Dunedain, Fornost, while we follow Iorlas south to the Cape of Erin Vorn to discover what is going on with the wood used to make the ships for the elves to depart from the Grey Havens. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope that you are enjoying the One Ring 2nd Edition. I'm very excited to do this second quest soon. It's going to feel a lot different, I think. It's going to be a long journey, so that's really cool. We're going to do a lot of traveling before we get to the locations of interest, but we might run into some interesting things along the way, and I hope that we do. All right, well, thank you again for listening. Find me on the internet anywhere you want at Rene Plays Games or Rene Plays Games Pod. You can email me at reneplaysgamespod@gmail.com. Please leave a rating and review on your podcatcher of choice just to help the internet go, hey, people listen to this guy, we should show him to more people. And then we grow our little nerd community, which you can also find over at the DMs After Dark Discord. Great little community of nerds over there where we talk a lot about TTRPGs, the world, games, music, pets, tons of stuff. There's a great farm group of people talking about farming and outdoorsy stuff. It's really cool. There's a little bit of everything over there for people, and so you should join it. If you feel obscenely generous, I do have a coffee page that I do not update, but you can donate one time or recurring monthly to help cover the cost of podcast hosting and all that stuff. But I'm just glad you're here listening. So again, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, it might be better to face your fears and run from them, but know that you've seen them, than to never look at all and never face them and never know.